Welcome back, fight fans. Today we're diving into a controversial topic: the 10 fighters that were banned for life from the UFC. This is the list of fighters who've been deemed too dangerous, crossed lines, or simply have a history that the UFC just couldn't ignore. So, buckle up and let's get started with these unforgettable stories. But before we jump into the list, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more exciting fight content. Kicking off our list is the British striker Paul Daley, nicknamed Semtex for his explosive power, who was a force to be reckoned with in the UFC. With a background in kickboxing and Muay Thai, Daley's striking prowess made him a dangerous opponent in the welterweight division. However, his UFC career took a sudden turn for the worse at UFC 113 in 2010, following a highly anticipated match against Josh Koscheck. After losing a unanimous decision to Koscheck, Daley allowed his frustration to get the better of him, sucker punching his opponent after the final bell. This unsportsmanlike conduct led to his immediate ban from the UFC, with Dana White stating he'd never fight in the UFC again. Daley has since expressed regret over his actions and continued to fight in other promotions, including Bellator and Strikeforce, where he's had a successful career. However, despite his accomplishments outside the UFC, the incident with Koscheck continues to define his legacy within the organization. Next up is Jason "Mayhem" Miller, a talented fighter known for his colorful personality and submission skills. He was a fan favorite during his time in the UFC. His charisma and fighting style earned him a coaching spot on the Ultimate Fighter 14, which led to a high-profile fight against opposing coach Michael Bisping. Unfortunately, Miller's UFC career was short-lived, as he was released after a loss to CB Dollaway in 2012. Miller's personal life took a nosedive after his UFC departure, with a series of legal issues dominating headlines. Among the incidents were arrests for domestic violence, a standoff with a SWAT team, and multiple charges related to resisting arrest and assaulting police officers. These legal troubles overshadowed his fighting abilities and left his MMA career in shambles. Given the severity of his issues and the UFC's commitment to maintaining a professional image, it's highly unlikely that Miller will ever be welcomed. Born Jonathan Koppenhaver, War Machine is undoubtedly one of the most infamous fighters to be banned from the UFC. He appeared on the 6th season of The Ultimate Fighter, but his time in the UFC was short-lived due to his controversial behavior and multiple altercations outside the cage. Despite his potential as a fighter, the UFC released him in 2008 after just 2 official fights. Things took a dark turn in 2014 when War Machine was involved in a brutal assault on his ex-girlfriend, adult film actress Christy Mack, and her friend Corey Thomas. The incident left Mack with severe injuries and resulted in a high-profile trial. War Machine was convicted of multiple charges including kidnapping, sexual assault and attempted murder. He was subsequently sentenced to life in prison with a possibility of parole after 36 years. War Machine's criminal actions not only ended his MMA career, but also ensured he would never be allowed to step near a UFC event ever again. Brazilian fighter Rousimar Palhares, nicknamed Toquinho, was known for his outstanding submission skills, particularly his expertise in leg locks and being built like a brick shithouse, amongst other things. Palhares had a promising career in the UFC, but his reputation took a severe hit in 2013, which ultimately led to his ban from the organization. At UFC Fight Night 29, Palhares faced Mike Pierce in what was expected to be a thrilling match. Palhares quickly demonstrated his grappling dominance, securing a heel hook that forced Pierce to tap out. However, Palhares refused to release the submission even after Pierce tapped and the referee intervened, causing unnecessary damage to his opponent's leg. This wasn't the first time Palhares had been in trouble for similar behavior. He'd previously been suspended for holding a submission too long against Thomas Druel in 2010. Due to his repeated unsportsmanlike conduct, the UFC decided to release Palhares, effectively banning him from future competition within the organization. The legendary axe murderer Wanderlei Silva had a storied career, but his tenure with the UFC ended on a sour note. In 2014, Silva evaded a random drug test by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, NSAC, and was handed a lifetime ban. Although the ban was later reduced to 3 years, Silva decided to sever ties with the UFC, signing with Bellator in 2016. Renato Sobral, a Brazilian fighter known for his exceptional grappling skills, was a top contender in the UFC's light heavyweight division. With a well-rounded skill set and an impressive record, Sobral seemed destined for greatness within the organization. However, his career took an unexpected turn at UFC 74 in 2007. Sobral faced David Heath in a fight that showcased his grappling prowess. Late in the second round, Sobral locked in an anaconda choke that forced Heath to tap out. However, Sobral refused to release the chokehold even after Heath tapped out and the referee intervened, causing Heath to lose consciousness. Sobral later stated that he wanted to teach Heath a lesson for disrespecting him during the pre-fight stare-down. Citing unsportsmanlike conduct and concerns for fighter safety, the UFC decided to part ways with Sobral, banning him from future competition within the organization. Sobral went on to fight in other promotions, including Strikeforce and Bellator, but his actions at UFC 74 continue to overshadow his accomplishments in the sport. Harold Howard, a Canadian martial artist, participated in the early days of the UFC, appearing in UFC 3 in 1994. However, his career took a dark turn in 2009 when he was involved in a domestic dispute, which led to a high-speed police chase and ended with Howard driving his truck into a casino. He was convicted on multiple charges, including attempted murder, and his criminal history has made him persona non grata in the UFC. Randy Couture, a UFC Hall of Famer and former heavyweight and light heavyweight champion, is a true legend of the sport. Couture has an impressive record of accomplishments, including being the first fighter to hold titles in 2 different weight classes. Despite his remarkable success, his relationship with the UFC has been far from perfect. In 2007, Couture resigned from the UFC due to a contract dispute and disagreements over fighter pay. He eventually returned in 2008, but his relationship with the organization took another hit in 2013 when he signed with Bellator as a coach and commentator. The move infuriated UFC president Dana White, who stated that Couture would no longer be welcome at UFC events or be involved with the organization in any official capacity. Although not officially banned, Couture's ongoing disputes with the UFC have made it highly unlikely that we'll see the Natural anywhere near the UFC octagon anytime soon. The prodigy BJ Penn is another UFC Hall of Famer with a storied career. A former lightweight and welterweight champion, Penn is considered one of the greatest fighters in MMA history. However, in recent years, his legacy has been marred by a string of losses and personal issues. Penn's decline began with a 7-fight winless streak, the longest in UFC history, leading to his release from the organization in 2019. Outside the octagon, Penn faced multiple allegations of domestic violence and was involved in several street fights, one of which resulted in a video of him being knocked out. These controversies have tarnished his reputation, and Dana White says he isn't welcome to the UFC anymore. Matt Riddle, a former UFC welterweight, had a promising career in the octagon, but his time with the organization came to an abrupt end in 2013. Riddle was released from the UFC after testing positive for marijuana following his fight against Che Mills. Although marijuana is now removed from the list of prohibited substances by USADA, Riddle's multiple positive tests and subsequent release created a rift between him and the UFC. Riddle has since transitioned to professional wrestling, becoming a successful WWE superstar. And there you have it, folks, the stories of fighters who faced bans or severed relationships with the UFC due to their actions and choices. It's essential to remember the impact of sportsmanship and professionalism in the world of MMA, as these fighters' experience serve as cautionary tales. Let us know in the comment section below what you think about these bans and whether you believe any of these fighters deserve a second chance.